So I think it will be live. Yes, I think now we are live.
Okay.
First of all, I'm just sharing the link in chat. So people who want to follow it on YouTube, they can also follow it over there. Okay. Okay, awesome. I think people are adding. But yeah, I think we should start now. So basically, I think that Yuvraj has already given some introduction about Bollypiano because there are some people who don't know this platform. Yuvraj, would it be possible for you to just repeat a little bit about the Bollypiano platform?
Yeah, sure. For the people who've come in right now, Bollypiano was started 5 years ago, and I actually started this with a high school friend of mine, and he, like, miraculously, he's not Indian. He's half Chinese and half English, and he's the one who actually finalizes all the sheet music that goes onto the platform. And his name is Matthew Entwistle, and he's the co-founder of Bollypiano. So we both started Bollypiano 5 years ago, and now we're branching out into different areas. As I said, Abhi Joshi is now in charge of the one-on-one classes division that we've recently started at Bollypiano. What we are also trying to do is build the first full-blown app, South Asian app, that we hope to release on the App Store by the end of this year. So, because what I've seen is there are apps out there for English songs. You've got examples like Simply Piano and Floki, but you don't have any examples of a similar type of app for South Asian songs. So that's another direction that we're also getting into. But yeah, this is what we have planned out, and I'm going to pass this back to Abhi Joshi to talk more about today's free masterclass.
Okay, so this is the first masterclass that we are doing with Bollypiano, and I think it's a completely new idea, and it's a new concept because and the very first thing, like I was having a discussion with Yuvraj, what should be the topic for the very first masterclass of Bollypiano, and I think it should be something that needs to be discussed first, right? I'll just replace the pin. Okay. So I think this is probably the most fitting title for the masterclass, How to Become an Accomplished Pianist, because a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people know the wrong things. So I think it's important to clear some misconceptions, first of all. So I think the idea behind this is there are two kinds of people, probably. The first kind is the people who are now thinking about getting into music, starting to play piano, those who haven't played any instrument yet. And there are few people, most of the people, who already play a little bit of piano and they want to progress further on their journey. So I think this masterclass is going to give you a very nice vision about which direction to head into. And it will also give you an idea about how you are doing right now in your journey. So I have prepared like a small presentation, which I will be sharing on the screen. Okay. Right, so roadmap to becoming an accomplished pianist. There are multiple aspects, and this is, I'm not going to take this class as a more philosophical point of view and trying to be all theoretical, that piano learning is all about feelings and it's about following your passion and stuff. I'm going to talk about very practical things, which you need to keep in mind while you are on the journey or you're thinking of starting this journey. So there are major 3 key points. The very first is the mindset, right? And this is something that you need to have before even purchasing your first piano or before even starting your journey. So generally, the mindsets that people have nowadays is either this: I want to learn 1 or 2 songs, and that's my goal. I want to learn 1 song for my wife, my husband, my friend, etc. And that's the goal. That's why I want to learn piano. Few people are like, I want to learn songs from this artist, or I want to learn songs of a specific genre. Maybe I want to learn just Bollywood songs. I want to play Bollywood songs, or someone who's into, let's say, classical music. There is a third mindset: I want to learn everything there is to learn about piano and music. That's the third. The fourth one is I want to learn to relax at the end of the day, at the end of a busy day. So that's the idea behind learning piano. And I don't know if there are any others, but I think these 4 are the 4 major mindset which people have. And I'm sure all the people right now over here would have either of these. So I want you to write down in the comments, in the chat, that what was your mindset when you started learning piano, or what mindset you have now that you are looking forward to when it comes to learning piano. So just if it's the first option, you can write 1. If it's the I want to learn songs from this artist, you can write 2 in the chat, 3, 4, and 5, going from left to right. So I want to see, I'm very interested to see what's your approach. Okay. For some reasons, I cannot see the chat. Okay. Okay, so I already have some answers in the chat. There's a second option. The third one, there is relax at the end of a busy day. There's a third option, wanted to learn songs of particular genre. So that's great. That's good. And this is generally what happens. The second or the third category, that's the most popular one. I want to learn 1 or 2 songs is very, very rarely the case, because if that's your idea of learning piano, then I think this might not be the right masterclass for you, because you yourself are saying that I don't want to be an accomplished pianist. I just want to learn 1 or 2 songs. So I don't think it even falls under the umbrella of being an accomplished pianist. That's one thing. And most of you have the second or third option. I want to learn everything there is, or I want to learn songs from this artist or a specific genre. And I think there are some responses for the fourth option as well. Okay, so I'm not going to say which one is the right, which one is the wrong, because it's a very subjective thing. But I'm going to say what kind of things you can expect in future. So I can tell from my experience. I started with the second one. I wanted to start with rock music. When I started like 10, 15 years back, I liked Linkin Park songs, and I liked rock music and pop music. And that was my motivation to start piano. But then eventually I got into, to playing piano covers of songs. And then eventually I kind of shifted to classical music. And nowadays I'm more into classical, also playing a little bit of jazz. So if I look back, I started with something that's kind of irrelevant, completely irrelevant from what I am now. And this is probably what's going to happen with most of the people. They will have like, okay, this is something I want to do. This is the artist I like. This is my role model, and I want to be like him or like her. And I think this is one of the best approaches to learning music, because you have a direction, you have a mindset that I want to be like him or like her. And then what happens is another story, but this is generally one of the best approaches to having like a perfect mindset. The third option, I want to learn everything there is to learn piano and music. That's great. There's the most idealistic scenario. Most of the times it doesn't happen. But even if it is, a lot of times I've seen students who are more open-minded, they kind of lose the direction because when you say you want to learn everything there is about piano, you're not pinpointing something or someone um, like whom you want to become eventually. So what I've seen in some students is when they choose the third option, they kind of lose their direction, they kind of lose their interest. So it's very important to have a good role model, good inspiration, and a good, very strong reason to start learning any instrument, not just piano. The fourth option, I want to learn to relax at the end of a busy day. This, I think, is a very good output of the process. Might not be the best mindset to have. So let's say I've been playing since last 15 years. And now when I want to relax, I do play piano and it's very relaxing. But that's not my goal. That wasn't my mindset when I started learning. So it's a great output to have, but probably not the best mindset to begin with. This is what I personally think. Is there any fifth mindset that I haven't covered over here? Anyone who has chosen the fifth option, other?
I
None
do
of
see.
you.
1 minute.
Wanted to learn to read music through piano and be able to play some songs. Okay, right. So the last option, basically, there's I wanted to learn to read music through piano and be able to play some songs in a social setting. So that's more like how you want to present your music. I think that's not more about the mindset. So that's basically like your goal instead of your mindset. So the question again, I will phrase that same question again, but what's your mindset when you say reading music through piano and be able to play some songs? So it's either the second or third option, right? Probably this is more like how you want to present your music, and that also we can discuss a lot. Like some people are like, I don't want to play in front of anyone. It's just for me and myself, which is great, and it's amazing, and that's what I personally prefer. But there are some people who are like, I want to do gigs, I want to go as a touring musician, I want to play with other bands, I want to collaborate with other people. So that's probably like another discussion that we can have, right? And at the end, we will also have a Q&A session where you can ask any questions you have regarding the presentation or even outside the presentation. So let's hope that this session is very interactive. Okay, so that's amazing. It's amazing to know your views and your mindsets. And again, like I said, there is no one right mindset to have. And this is just my personal opinion. This is what I've been seeing through my personal students I've faced. So, okay, let's go further. Okay, so let's talk about two very common myths when it comes to learning piano or any instrument, any musical instrument. First is people think that it is a natural God-gifted talent. And maybe in some way it might be a little bit true, because when you're growing up, it matters a lot that what kind of environment you are into. So if let's say you grew up while your parents were listening to good music, if there was a thing like every morning there's like 2 hours of music going on in your house, or maybe you are commuting and your bus basically has a sound system which plays new songs. So I think these sort of factors, especially when you're young, are very important. I've seen some students who have great sense of rhythm from the very beginning of the classes. Like they can figure out 16th notes and 8th note rhythm, which is very challenging at first. And I've seen some people who cannot clap when it comes to clapping in time. So that's completely okay. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. I've seen people who are very good at pitch recognition. They can figure out which is the higher note, which is the lower pitch note. And I've also seen some students that when I play the lowest octave and the highest octave, and I ask them which sound is thinner, which is higher pitch sound, they have difficulty figuring out the pitch. So it depends a lot on what kind of music you've been listening since you grew up. If you are more exposed to, let's say, Brazilian music and Latin music, probably you have good sense of rhythm, because there is very complex rhythm when it comes to Brazilian music and Latin music, and those genres. Even if, let's say, you're listening to a lot of old Bollywood songs while you grew up, it had amazing compositions, amazing rhythm. So I think we can definitely say that one might have a head start when it starts to learning, but that head start is kind of very negligible when we look at the bigger picture. And we can call it a head start, but calling it a God-gifted talent to play music or to grasp music is not the right way, I think. So the only way, if you want to be a better musician, is I feel like you need to practice, you need to listen to good music. And yes, I think it's basically sheer dedication that will bring you forward when it comes to learning piano. Second is very funny thing. Um, a lot of people think that it can be learned during the summer break. You know, a lot of parents, they are like, I can name like 100 scenarios that when it's the first day, the first question they have is, till when will I learn piano? You know, where on which date will I finish my piano course of learning piano and finishing piano as an instrument, as a subject. So this is definitely a myth, because it's more about the journey rather than destination, which I think most of you now know. I've also seen some people, some parents. I think if there are some parents here in the meeting, there are some parents who are like, okay, the neighbor's kid is playing guitar, my kid should play guitar as well, should play keyboard, which might not be the best approach. You know, maybe it's a good way to introduce to an instrument, but if, let's say, a student or a kid wants to learn something else like football or some sport, it's completely okay. I think this music subject should be a voluntary subject. It should not be something that is forced. And yeah, I think these two myths I need to clear out in the very beginning. So I hope I've gotten these things out of the way. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. So this is the next big milestone in the masterclass, is the preparation. So when I talk about preparation, I'm not talking about preparing the pieces or the songs when you're playing. I'm talking about the preparation you do before you start your journey. And it might be a surprise to a lot of people that most of the time I'm going to talk about is going to be before you even press the first key on your keyboard. So mindset and preparation is something that happens before you start your process. Process is going to be the third milestone. Okay. By the way, if I think we can also have kind of an interactive session. So if you have any doubts so far in the mindset topic, then you can ask me. You can unmute yourself and ask me, or you can put it in the chat. Okay, so I think there are no doubts or questions so far. So let's move on to preparation. Okay, so first question that a lot of people stress upon is which piano to buy. And I'm sure that everyone has this question at some point in their journey. And it's definitely a very valid question. But at times I feel like people stress too much about, you know, which piano to get. Should I get a digital piano? Should I get an acoustic piano? Should I get a keyboard? Or should I get a Yamaha keyboard? Or should I get Roland? And people stress a lot about these things. So I think my goal is to clear a few of these misconceptions about buying piano. So first, let's talk about complete beginners. So I'm going to talk about the must-have features that your keyboard should have for the very first year. Now, again, the first year is a very subjective term. I've seen people going from beginner to intermediate level in the span of 4 months or 6 months. So I would focus more on the complete beginner aspect. So if you're a complete beginner, you haven't played keyboard yet, and you are looking forward to getting the first keyboard, then these are the must-have features. If you have better features, it's always a plus. but I think these are the necessary minimum requirements that you need. So one is the 61 keys keyboard, 5 octaves. The one that you're seeing on the screen is the 61 key keyboard. Another thing that's important is that it should be full size keys. So there are some keyboard, oh, sorry, there's some question in the chat. Okay. I think for some reason I cannot see the chat until I stop the share. Okay. Might be of interest this week. I viewed an interesting TED talk on YouTube. Robert on. Oh, okay, that's good. Maybe I'll have a look at the TED talk that's mentioned. If you are interested in watching these TED talks about music and how science and music is related, maybe, I mean, you can check out this TED talk, which is mentioned by William in the chat. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so must have for a complete beginner 61 keys keyboard, full size keys. And the third thing, which maybe not that essential when you're a complete beginner, but you can definitely have is a sustain pedal. It's very cheap, but it's very important as well. Okay, sustain pedal is a pedal that you can externally attach to your keyboard, and it's you can get it on Amazon or anywhere, basically any offline store as well. So these are the minimum requirements. Let's move on to the next one. So must-haves after 1 year, or to be more specific, late beginner or early intermediate level. So this is what I would suggest to go is for a digital piano. So those of you who don't know what a digital piano is, it's the whole point of a digital piano is to replicate the acoustic piano, but with less maintenance and much cheaper alternative. So digital piano is powered by electricity, and it's not acoustic. There are no acoustic elements. Acoustic, by the way, means there's no mechanism to produce the sound naturally. The sound is produced by a sound engine. And these digital pianos are manufactured in a very interesting way, by the way, if, a lot of you might not know. So Yamaha and Kawai pianos, they are sampled digital pianos. So what it means is that every key has a programmed sound from an actual acoustic. So probably the team, they recorded the sound of every key on an acoustic grand piano, and the sound, they inserted that in the digital piano. So when you play a certain key, the sound that you're listening is kind of recorded from a grand piano that you are, it's not going to be a synthesized programmed sound. It's kind of what we call a sampled sound. So that's one of the things of a digital piano. And in digital pianos, it should be, of course, 88 key full size piano. Another thing that is a common feature of a digital piano is the graded hammer action, the weighted keys. So weighted keys, when we talk about that, it's the keys are a little bit heavier. They are sometimes even wooden keys, like an actual acoustic piano. So does anyone know that why should we give this pain to our fingers of having heavy keys? Why not use the softer keys, which are much more comfortable for our hand? Does anyone know the reason behind this? Okay, so I think, okay, I have some response. Right, dynamics, yes, that is true. Anything else? So one of the important points is dynamics, like, yes, to create original sound, that is true as well. Yes. So one of the main reasons is the dynamics and expressions. So when the keys are heavier, you get a wider spectrum of dynamics. You can play the softest sound, you can play the hardest sound. If you are a beginner, you might not know this, but when you're pressing the keys softly, it's going to generate a softer sound. When you are playing it with much more force, it's going to create a louder sound. So that's one of the features. Add some resistance to mimic the hammer action. Yes. So the grand pianos and the acoustic pianos, they have a mechanism, which is when you are playing a key, there are hammers that strike the strings that are attached behind the piano or above the piano, parallel to the piano in case of an upright piano. So because of this mechanism, the keys are a little bit harder. So let's say in the future, when you're shifting to a grand piano, you might not feel that much of a surprise while shifting. You would be kind of adjusted to this action, and it creates much more realistic sound. It creates much more expressive and dynamic sound. So these are the main reasons why we need a heavy action piano to train our fingers and to get the best possible sound. Okay, so let's move further. Popular brands, of course, there's Yamaha, Roland, Casio, Korg, Kawai. I prefer Yamaha. I've almost used all of these brands at some point. I personally use Yamaha Clavinova series, which is amazing. If you are on a little bit strict budget, you can also go for P45 and P125. So those are also by Yamaha. These are very popular and famous digital pianos. Also, you would notice that there are 3 pedals attached to a digital piano. And you will also learn the use of these pedals as opposed to the keyboard. So there are 3 different pedals. We'll talk about the pedals maybe in a different meeting on a different day. But using the pedals is also a technique which you need to develop as a pianist. Okay. All right, let's move further. Must-have features after being a late intermediate or early advanced level player is that you need to have an access to acoustic piano. Now, in my case, it's very difficult to have an access to an acoustic piano at home because first reason is we don't have many dealers and distributors of acoustic pianos over here in my city. Also, it's difficult to find technicians and maintain the piano in the weather in my city. So what I generally do is I have a good digital piano at my home, but then during the weekends, I go to a studio where there is an acoustic piano. So you can also probably do that when you are at that stage, that you can have a good digital piano to practice, but maybe once or twice in a week, you can go to some place where there is an acoustic piano. You can go to some music academy, which has the acoustic piano, or you can go to some studio, or you can go to maybe some friend. You can always look up on the Google if it helps. This problem is generally kind of a big problem when it comes to second tier and third tier cities in India, that acoustic pianos are not that popular. So this is the solution. This is what you can work around. Okay, right. Another question that one might have is learning with teacher or self-taught. I think we also answered this question on the Bollypiano website, the YouTube channel, that what are the benefits, what are the pros and cons about these things. So one very famous thing and popular thing is that you would learn fast and your progress would be much more directional with the teacher. And to reveal something, I have myself been a self-taught pianist for most of my piano journey, but I think learning with the teacher is a much better approach because there have been so many scenarios where I didn't have the right direction. I thought maybe I was going in the right direction, but it was not the right direction. So I had to trace back and go on the right path, which was very time consuming. And right now I feel that honestly, the amount of the learning I've done in these years, I could have done probably in the half amount of years or the 3/4 amount of years if I had a good teacher. I did have a teacher once I was like a late intermediate, level player, but I think the teacher is much more important when it comes to the beginning journey. So fast and directional progress is very important. Um, Generally, self-taught pianists, they stick to probably some YouTube channel or some apps. Now, I myself have worked with other apps apart from Bollypiano as well, like Flowkey, and I also know some people who work in other apps, and their goal isn't for their clients, their goal isn't their customers to learn piano. Their goal is to sell their app and to make the app as commercial as possible. So their goal is not much to do with your journey, your piano journey. It's more to sell their products, sell their app. And again, when it's done in the right direction, it's not a bad thing. There are some companies who think of both, who also think of the progress of the student as well as their needs, the app needs, etc. And yeah, I can definitely say that Bollypiano has been taking care of these both elements, the progress of the student as well as the when it comes to learning by yourself, learning the apps, learning the the user-friendly app, and at the same time you can also learn the piano, and your journey is kind of smooth. One important thing that I made sure that I discussed with you, Raj, is the feedback system should be good. So if you're relying on some app, then you need to see there should be a good feedback system. A lot of these apps, they don't have any feedback system. Means that when you're playing it, the app will tell you what you need to do, but it won't tell you whether you're doing it right or wrong. There is no feedback system. There is no loop, right? So in Bollypiano, we have one-on-one classes, as well as there is sheet music database. There are also tutorials about songs. There is also tutorial about techniques. So we kind of make sure that we cover all the aspects when it comes to feedback, as well as delivering some information to the student. By the way, talking about this thing, we have the one-on-one classes scheme, where basically you will be guided by a teacher with one-on-one classes on Zoom or Google Meet. So I'm just going to put this link in the chat if you're interested in one-on-one classes with Bollypiano. Okay. Yuvraj, are you there in the meeting?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Can you put that chat? Put the link in the chat.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Yes. So feedback system is very important, and that's why we have one-on-one classes system where the teacher talks with the student. And of course, in this masterclass as well, this is my intention, that I want to make it more interactive. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you have, because others might also be having those same questions. So I want to answer them in front of everyone. So, okay, fast and directional progress. Another thing is avoiding injuries. So telling from my personal experience, when I was learning octaves, so intermediate level and advanced level players probably know this. Octaves is the technique where you kind of stretch your hand to play two notes, which are the same but an octave apart. So like C4 and C5, C of the fourth octave, C of the fifth octave, you play it with the same hand. And when you do that, you have to stretch your hand. A lot of times what happens is that you might be playing that in a wrong way. Like I used to do it. I used to kind of twist my hand to reach the right keys. And what happened was I injured my hand, and I couldn't play piano for like 2 months because of this wrong technique. I had a pain in this third finger muscle. I don't know basically what's the name of the muscle, but I can tell you I had a pain here. And because of that, my physiotherapist told me not to play piano for a certain amount of time. And eventually I had to correct myself. And this thing is a big problem. When you don't have someone to guide you, you might injure yourself. And that's the worst case scenario, right? You want to do something you love. You want to do something to enjoy, and you don't want to go through any injuries while doing this. One more thing is improving technique. So again, when I was a self-taught pianist, I didn't have good technique. So technique is basically the mechanical aspect of learning. So like playing fast, playing with a better sound. So that's what we call technique in music. So I had trouble playing fast, or I had trouble used to, playing arpeggios, which I had to work on eventually. But I wish I'd started from the beginning with a teacher. I would have done that along the way when I was a beginner intermediate level player. So I think these three important points are very important when it comes to starting with a teacher. The only justification I see for self-learning is, one is that you might not be able to afford a teacher, which is kind of rare, honestly, because nowadays it's really cheap to find a teacher. And if you're in this meeting, you are probably joining with a cell phone or laptop. And if you can afford a cell phone or a laptop, you can probably afford a teacher. I think this is what I feel. So yes, this is my personal opinion. If you are not comfortable, learning with someone like a teacher, what I would recommend is to develop some sort of feedback system. Maybe if you have a friend, you can ask him or her to review your playing, or maybe you can record yourself and watch that, whether you're playing in the right way possible or not. So that feedback system is very important when it comes to self-learning. Okay. All right. Next question is how to choose the right teacher. And first thing is attitude towards teaching. So that's something you need to look at first. A good teacher always has a very positive, optimistic attitude when it comes to teaching the student, when it comes to building a relationship with the student. So attitude towards teaching is something that I would stress upon the most. If I had two options, one option is a teacher with great, awesome, optimistic attitude, but is not maybe that efficient when it comes to playing. And there is another teacher who's very experienced, very knowledgeable, but has terrible attitude. I think I will go with the first option. So, because if he or she has good attitude towards teaching, I think that eventually he will be able to prepare you, and he or she himself will be able to guide you, because he has a positive approach to the learning process. Second thing, of course, is qualifications and portfolio. So this thing is also very important. And to be honest, when I first started as a teacher, I was kind of expecting students and parents to ask me that, what are your qualifications? And basically, what have you done in your music career? But I never faced these questions. The question that I generally used to face is, when will my kid learn piano? When will he finish learning piano? That's the question I used to get most of the times, again. So it's very important to have a look at the qualifications and the portfolio of the teacher. It also matters what's the specialization, right? So some teachers are like classical music teachers, some are jazz music teachers. So generally, these are the most two popular approaches. There is classical pianist teachers, there's jazz teachers. Generally, you won't find someone who is like Bollywood music teacher, because I'm pretty sure anyone who is classically trained or trained in jazz can play Bollywood super easily. It's very easy when it comes to finding the notes, playing the notes. In fact, like Yuvraj said in the very beginning, the person who has uploaded most of the sheet music, who is one of the co-founders of Bollypiano, he is basically half Chinese and half English. So I think specialization is important, but it's never a bad idea to have a teacher who has a different liking than you. So if, let's say, you are more into classical music, and if you have a teacher who's more into jazz, maybe it's good. Maybe it's good approach to have a broad mind, So specialization is something you also should look into. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? Please feel free to ask. Okay. So next thing is schedule. How would you basically practice? How will you prepare? So this is still in the preparation zone. We are still preparing, like what kind of schedule should you adapt to? So first thing is consistency is the most important thing. And um, if you have good grasping, it's maybe a plus, but I've seen some people being demotivated because I learn very slow. I'm not that good grasping person. So I always tell them that music is not about being God gifted or having an excellent grasping. If you're consistent, I think you can be the greatest musician possible. Yes, that's one thing. So make sure that you practice daily. It's okay if you practice 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but make sure you practice daily. It's kind of like gym. If you don't practice, if you don't go to the gym daily, you're not going to have good results eventually. Okay. Another thing, that at least have 2 classes with the teacher, or 1 class when it comes to advanced students. So 2 classes, why? Because first thing is, it's very important to have good momentum in your learning process. If you don't have good momentum, you're going to kind of, especially in the beginning, if you don't have good momentum, you're going to feel lazy, you're going to procrastinate, you're going to feel like I cannot do it, you will be demotivated, and eventually you will lose interest for music. So 2 classes is at least 2 classes. If more, it's even better. So 2 classes are must. Another problem is if you're having 1 class as a beginner or intermediate level student, I can say from the teacher's side that when I'm having the next class with someone who has 1 class per week, is that half of the class, or maybe 15 minutes of the 1 hour class, just goes into revising what you did the last week. And let's say if you skip 1 class, then you're meeting after 2 weeks, and that's 14 days. That's a huge gap. So if the classes are one-on-one, 2 classes are, I think, important. If you're having group classes with your teacher, then maybe 3 classes are must. Okay. This self-practice time that you should give. So this self-practice time is the time outside your guided learning hours. So as a beginner, you should practice at least 20 to 30 minutes daily. Early intermediate level players should practice 30 to 45 minutes. Late intermediate, 45 to 60 minutes. Early advanced 1 to 2 hours. Late advanced 1.5 to 4 hours. So right now, if you are an intermediate level player, and if you are practicing more than this certain time, maybe it's okay. This is just my personal opinion about these things, but I'm definitely saying this data based on my experience. So I would highly recommend that you stick to these. If you go beyond this, it might you might kind of get in that zone where you make music very mechanical. You kind of do it more like in a robotic way. So it's very important that you stay in this zone. A lot of my students say that, sorry, I couldn't finish the homework, I couldn't practice today because there were guests today, or maybe I went out with my parents, or I went out with my family. So I kind of found a very nice alternative to that. What you can do is you can have a diary with you, and you can first fix your ideal time. So let's say if I'm a beginner, and if I fix that my goal is 20 minutes practice per day, and if I'm practicing 25 minutes, then my score is +5 because I practiced 5 minutes extra. Okay, if let's say I couldn't practice 20 minutes, let's say someday I could only practice 15 minutes the next day, then my score is -5. So my overall score would be back to 0, right? If let's say you practice 40 minutes and you are a beginner, if 20 minutes is your ideal time, you are +20, and the next day you don't practice, it will be back to 0. Okay, so you have to maintain that the score 0 as much as possible. So this is, I think, because if some days you might have guests, then maybe there will be some days when you are free. So at that time you can cover up. So this is, I think, a very interesting approach when it comes to fixing the schedule to learning. Okay. Do we have any questions? Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'm just assuming at this point that everyone is following. Okay. And now we move on to the final step, the third step. And now we have started learning. And now it comes to the process. Okay. Process is the third step. And now we are going to answer how to approach the learning, how to approach once we have started basically our journey. So pillars of instrument learning, not just piano, but probably all the instruments, all the Western musical instruments, I can say. There are these aspects that you need to keep in mind. First is practical. So I've written how in the brackets. So it's basically you answer the question, how to play, right? So that's practical, right? So in practical, there are basically three things that you do. One is warm up. So there are warm-up exercises and stuff that kind of, gets you into the groove, gets you into the practicing zone. The second thing is improving technique. So like I said, technique is the mechanical side of learning an instrument, building your speed, building your flexibility of fingers, strengthening your fingers. So that's improving technique. And the third aspect of practical is playing your song or playing the piece that you like. Okay. The next thing is theory. So the question why, as in why does it work like that? Or why does it sound like that? So that question, the why question, will be answered with the help of theory. So theory will help you to, first of all, know what you are doing. It's kind of like if you're learning mathematics, you can't memorize mathematics, right? You need to know the formula, you need to know the theorems to understand mathematics fully. So it's kind of like that in music as well. You need to understand the theory. Theory, there are three fundamental categories of theory. One is the fundamental theory. So if you don't know fundamental theory, you cannot progress on the instrument. So fundamental theory includes notations. It includes pitch, basic pitch exercises, basic rhythm learning, chords, scales, etc. Then there's the essential, so kind of like the intermediate level of theory when it comes to knowing some advanced chords, knowing the structure of the song, knowing the chords. So this essential theory is going to be a big help to speeding up your process when it comes to learning piano. And the third one is the basically the aspect of theory which goes beyond the fundamentals and the essential things. So you kind of develop an interest in music, you explore different types of styles of music, you explore different eras of music. So there's classical period, there's Baroque period, maybe you listen to different world music, like what's Latin music. So that is something that might not be directly there to help you out when it comes to your instrument learning, but indirectly, I think it has a huge role in your journey, basically. Third thing is sight reading. So if you are a complete beginner, you might not know that there is a language that the musicians follow, and it's called the stave notations, or if you're American, then staff notations. So it's a musical language. You might have seen it somewhere, which we use. So sight reading is the art of basically playing something just by looking at something that you haven't played before, something that you haven't memorized before. So if you have good sight reading skills, you will have to rely less on your memory and more on your conscious mind, basically, or just reading and playing on the spot in real time. Also, it's amazing when it comes to learning more songs. You can learn the song faster, you can learn more songs. So sight reading is very important. And notations in general, if you have a friend who also plays an instrument, you can exchange the notations or collaborate with other musicians if you know the notation. Oral aspect. So oral is basically identifying any information about music with the help of our ear and mind. So there is pitch oral and there is rhythm oral. So figuring out the right notes is into the pitch oral. Identifying the right rhythm of these notes is called the rhythm oral. So that's the oral aspect. And a lot of people are fascinated by these, especially people who are interested in playing Bollywood music, that they want to develop this skill more so that they can independently listen to any music, figure out the notes and play it out, So oral skills, very important. Improvisation is basically a skill where you are applying these things in real time, where you are playing on the spot without any preparation. You're not memorizing it, you are not even sight reading it, you're playing something on the spot. And improvisation, one might say it's kind of like a mixture of practical and theory, because you are constantly thinking about what's going to be the next chord, what's going to be the next note and stuff. So it's theory, but at the same time you are playing it out. So it's kind of like a mixture of both practical and theory. Last thing, composition. And composition, a lot of people are kind of into this. They are their basic reason that why they started learning is because they want to be a musician, they want to be a composer someday. But even those who are not much into composing new music, I think it's a good skill to develop, because you would know what a composer would think. So while you're playing, you would know what to expect from the composer. So it's kind of being into the shoes of the composer. So all these things are like the pillars of instrument learning. And these things, they're irrespective of what genre you want to learn, or whether you're interested in Bollywood music or something else. I think all these points are very important. One might have some strengths and weaknesses. Like I myself, I'm good in theory and practical and improvisation, but I'm not amazingly good when it comes to sight reading and oral. So that's always going to be there. You are going to be good in something and maybe kind of okay in other thing, and that's completely fine. But you should not completely neglect any of these things. This is what I feel. Okay. All right. And please feel free to ask if you have any questions in between. So finally, cutting it short now, this is the last thing I want to discuss. A lot of people, when it comes to learning the things that we discussed, the pillars of instrument learning, they rely on a curriculum. So there are different curriculums in the world, like Trinity College of London, ABRSM, Rock School Music, etc. So these curriculums, they are designed in such a way that they cover all these aspects, all the pillars of instrument learning, and you don't have to think about, what's the next thing you need to practice. There's always a structure, and there are multiple benefits to this. So there is directional approach. Another thing is this is tried and tested method through many years. Trinity College of London and ABRSM are like 100 years old, but they are constantly being updated based on the feedback of the teachers and the students. Of course, it's used across the world. So that's the benefit of a structured curriculum. One of the downsides, which I feel, of a structured curriculum is sometimes people kind of get bored, because no one starts their musical journey thinking that, hey, I want to give exams, or I want to do Trinity College of London or ABRSM. They start with, I want to play my favorite songs on the piano, right? So I think that, and what I generally do with my students is I kind of build like a hybrid approach, that we follow a curriculum, but in between, I also like to do a few songs that the student likes, which might be, I think, the way most of teachers do nowadays. So this hybrid approach is amazing. These things that you see in this curriculum, they are designed in such a way that you don't have to worry about building your technique or certain things. Everything is taken care of. So I think these are the important points, and I hope you like the presentation. So these are the important points. Now, before we conclude, I have one of my students. His name is Victor. Victor, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. So Victor is learning from me since 2.5 years. And I think that I can go on and explain about, the roadmap to an accomplished pianist, but one might say that you are not a student, right? You might not know the difficulties of a student. So that's why I have one of my students today who might guide you a little bit better maybe in this direction, and he can give insights from a student's perspective, how his journey went on and how these aspects that we discussed in today's masterclass helped him, or maybe kind of not helped him in the right way. So we have Victor Paul over here on the screen.
Hey everyone, my name is Victor. As Abhi was saying, I've been learning music from him for the past 2.5 years. So I probably would repeat a few things that Abhi was alluding to earlier. So my journey started like 2.5 years ago, right at the peak of COVID, and I wanted to take music. And even before that, a few months earlier to that, I bought a keyboard and I wanted to learn music. And I have done the usual mistakes that a newbie would do, like literally underestimating how much learning there is. And by underestimating, I went onto YouTube and searched for a few free tutorials and started learning. And then I found out about the apps, and I got onto an app and I tried that one too. And after a few months, I wasn't making any progress. And only then I realized I would need a teacher. And then luckily I found Abhi as my teacher. And I started learning music from Abhi. And right off the bat, Abhi gave this very good introduction to how to learn music. And so we started off with the Trinity College of London's curriculum. And we jumped into learning theory and learning practical. And I wanted to learn piano. So we approached it in two ways, theory and practical, and also listening skills and reading skills and writing skills. And we started with rhythm and learning chords, learning scales, arpeggios on the practical end, and on the theory, how to read music and how to write music, and writing music on a stave notation, just like this. So started off learning like this. And in a few months, and because of the structured format, I could learn a few things. And Trinity books look like this. And we started doing the workbooks and started giving, so I started giving the exams. I started taking the exams. And very soon, the structured format helped me to progress quickly. And right after that, listening skills are also very important. And these are the things I would have found without a good teacher, without a good mentor. And reading, even with listening skills, we have workbooks from Trinity, and we can get the material. And in the classes, what we would do is Abhi would give me homework, and I would go do the homework and come back. And in the class, we would discuss the theory part, and we discuss my progress with the instrument itself, and he would give me the feedback on what I'm doing right and in which areas I could improve. And all these things helped because of having a teacher. So that's what I wanted to say. And in last 2.5 years, I made decent progress with theory, and with practical, I'm at grade 5 level right now. And yeah, it's going well right now. That's all I could say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Victor. And just one of the that people have is that these grades and Trinity and ABRSM, these things are only for kids, which is not true at all. I think it's important for everyone. A lot of people actually don't give the exams, but they just follow this curriculum, which is also, I think, completely okay, because it gives you the right structure. So, of course, there needs to be a kind of balance between curriculum and the technique and these things, as well as there should be, of course, a lot of things that you kind of like to do. Maybe if you like to listen rock music, or if you like to listen Bollywood music, then in between you should definitely do some Bollywood songs as well. And I think this hybrid approach of following the curriculum as well as in between playing some songs that you like is the nice perfect middle way when it comes to learning. Okay, I think we are about to kind of conclude the masterclass, but if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and ask me if you have any questions. It can be related to today's topic, or it could be outside this topic. That's completely okay. And we have amazing database thanks to Matthew and Yuvraj. Especially, we have amazing database when it comes to easy songs, intermediate and advanced level songs, all the 3 difficulties on the Bollypiano channel. We also give one-on-one classes. So again, if you are interested to have a one-on-one class with a Bollypiano teacher, there is a form in the meeting chat. So you can, of course, click on that, fill up the form. The form is basically some questions like, where are you from? So that we can know what time zone works for you. And questions like, if you have any background in learning, some basic questions, and you can fill up the form if you like. And thank you so much, first of all, to kind of being associated to Bollypiano in direct sense or indirect sense. I'm not sure what's the right way to say it, but thank you so much for spending your Sunday 1 hour today with me and with Bollypiano. Okay, I think Yuvraj and Matthew is here as well, so you guys can take on.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Abhi, for hosting this free masterclass, and thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, I did speak about my co-founder, and luckily he was able to make it. Matthew and Twistle, half Chinese, half English. So he's the man behind all the music sheets that you see on our database. Matthew, if you'd like to say a couple of words.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you mostly to Abhi for putting this together, and thank you everyone else for attending and listening to Abhi, tell you about how to become more of an accomplished pianist, as is the point of this masterclass. I'd like to add some more in terms of what Bollypiano. It's not a sales pitch, but I'm just Bollypiano's approach to teaching people how to play their favorite songs, right, through different difficulty levels. So Bollypiano itself, we want to make it easier for you guys to learn your favorite songs through technology as well. So these days we have the power of technology to help us, which is different from even just 20 years ago, where we didn't have these tools to listen back to what you're supposed to play. For example, that's our interactive sheet music player. You select a song, you play it, listen to how it sounds. And that's all about ear training, by the way. So there are all these little tools that you guys have heard about in this masterclass. So there's that opportunity as well to practice those skills when you're using Bollypiano products. So if there's anything that you want us to add to our product offering, to our sheet music, or to our technology side, to our interactive sheet music player, please let us know. Yeah, it's all about learning together. It's about enhancing that learning experience. Certainly, I could talk a lot about how to get better at that, but ear training is very fundamental to that. And especially, the last thing I want to say is, hopefully, using our tools and learning how your songs, what chord symbol, what chords make up those songs that you're playing on piano. You won't just become a better pianist, you'll become a better musician overall, not just a pianist, right? I come from classically trained piano backgrounds, and let me tell you, a lot of classical, pianists and musicians, they're not good composers, or they don't know much theory because they're not trained in that. So, but we want it to be different for you guys. Okay, we want you guys to be more well-rounded musicians. such that you listen to some song in the future, like some Bollywood song that is really hot on the radar right now, and you're able to figure it out by yourself on the piano. That will be a beautiful thing. So it's all about ear training. So if our tools can help you achieve that better, if you're wanting something, just let us know. Oh, let Abhi know. Just let us three know. Yeah, and we'll help you make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matthew. I do see somebody saying they're looking for an iPhone app. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely in the radar. We are working towards that. As I said at the very start, we do want to be the first proper app to get into the app space. So let's hope for the best. We have some hurdles, but hopefully we can get there as fast as possible. So thank you very much for listening, guys. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.